scratch and put that up. Oh, there we go. It's just very, 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 very slow. All right, let's quickly do attendance. All right, there we go. Okay, so welcome everybody. We could officially get started now. So this is AORP6221, which is organizational psychology. And tonight basically is going to be a introduction to the module. We're going to look at the admin and all of that. And obviously, if you've got questions, the Q&A should be active. I'm not sure if the chat will work. We can try that too. Q&A is definitely active. And yeah. Right, so I'm going to start off the way I normally start off with, which is asking you guys with what your expectations are for the module, your expectations are from me, but I won't put you on the spot immediately. I'll give you a little while to think about that. I'm going to do some other admin and then I'll get back to the expectations question if anybody would like to share. So this is my details. Like I said, I saw a whole bunch of familiar faces. So it's Underlay van Heerden again. That's my email address. And for those of you that don't know or don't remember, I actually did my honors in, well, undergrad and honors in human resource management. And then later on, I did a master's in labor relations and HR. And this module is a little bit weird for me because a lot of the people that wrote your textbook or edited your textbook, the editor of your textbook was actually my master's supervisor. And I had lectures with Amanda Werner, and Peter Cunningham, who is one of the other authors here, is also, I had him all the way through undergrad and postgrad. So it's a bit strange to use their text, but it's also a bit of a nice thing for me, a bit of a homage from my side to be able to use this textbook. So yeah. Now we're back to your expectations. Anybody that would perhaps like to share? You can use a Q&A, you can use a chat if you want to. Hey, the chat's working, fantastic. We had some problems with the chat in the first semester. And yes, you're absolutely right, Sandy. It is a lot like HR. We're looking more at the mental side of it, but very much HR. See, Katlejo is furiously typing. And if you guys want to use your microphones, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, if you want to type, either or, not a problem. So you'll actually see those of you that have looked through, and I need to update your ARC, that's on my to-do list. I'm still going to get to that. But if you've looked through chapter 1, you can see there's a lot of management discussion. But as I said, we're looking at the thinking and the manner how that influences behavior in the workplace, which as managers, as leaders, as HR people, we need to be aware of. So basically, Katlejo says how psychology applies in the workplace and am I missing? Oh yes, and employee behavior. Yes, absolutely. That's what we're looking at. Right. Anybody else, or are we carrying on? And if you remember from the first semester, we're here to learn from each other. That's something that I'm going to get to in my lecture slides. I'll get back. I see there's another comment loading. I'll get back to that in a second. Before I get to the prescribed material. Okay, can actually start looking at the prescribed material. There's the textbook. The 6th edition of Organizational Behavior with Werner as the editor. And then Bahrain, Cunningham, Musa, Suktio. I probably hashed that last pronunciation something terrible. That's the textbook that you will need to use. And this is, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, an examinable module, which means you'll be writing an exam. So you would need to have a look at the textbook for me, please, and get a copy of that textbook. So Hannah says she hasn't really got any expectations, but looking forward to the module. I think it'll be very interesting. And that's the nice thing. We're looking at things from a South African perspective. We're not looking at from an international perspective. We've got such a unique country and a unique way of doing things that I think it would be a bit of a disservice to actually look at it from an American point of view, which is very frequently the text that you get. Okay, so there's your prescribed material. You've got that in your module outline as well. I'm going to assume everybody has got access to their module outline at this point, as well as your assignment 1 and assignment 2 documents. Just a breakdown of the chapters here in the academic weeks. You can see there for week 1, basically 2 chapters were covered. Organizational culture is like a super short chapter. I'll put up a bunch of additional videos because obviously I didn't see you guys last week. We actually in week 2 now, which is individual identity, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace. And then next week, we're looking at motivation and engagement of the South African workforce. So as I did last semester, I'm going to be putting up videos as we go along. I'm going to assume that everybody's busy working through that third or second academic week content at the moment, so we can look at that when I see you guys again. And obviously, as I have done before, I will make discussions forums available. If you've got questions, email. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, so I can send you a response. If there's specific concepts that you're not sure of, that you don't understand or you're struggling with, please give a shout so we can have a look at that. Yeah. Okay, so some admin. Just make sure, and I'll make sure these policy documents are uploaded onto your site. I'm a little bit slow on that, in all honesty. I was busy doing it and then the stuff disappeared, so ran a little bit behind. But that will be up by Wednesday, hopefully at the latest. Guidelines for responsible AI use, and if you noticed in the first semester, I don't particularly mind AI use as long as you do it in a responsible manner. And I will put up videos with regards to that, especially now with your assignments where journal articles are going to become important. It's not the POE style that you had before. Journal articles here are valuable. So I'm going to actually show you how you can use AI to guide that process in terms of finding articles much more easily, hopefully. The latest Harvard Anglia referencing guide, please make sure you've got a copy of that. The YouTube channel, which I will share the link for. We're going to have some ICE tasks, which I will start posting presently or as soon as possible. And then what I would like you to also do is make sure you have a copy of at least assignment 1, so you can start looking through that. When I see you guys again, I'm going to actually discuss that with you. In the meantime, I will start putting up some guidelines with regards to assignment 1, things you can look out for, ways you should be approaching it. Obviously, that's learning units 1 and 2, so that means that basically at the end of this week, you should be able to start on your assignment 1. Just something that the Resource Center would like us to share with you is the undergrad library sessions. This is not the full document. The full document's a bit long, and I sort of saw that if I'm going to put up the whole thing, you might not be able to read it properly. So I will post this entire PDF file onto your ARC site. I will also remind you closer to the time of the upcoming sessions. You can see here I've got the first 3 there. First one's tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. And that's how to reference like a master. So something that definitely you can use at this particular point in time, because you are going to start looking at your assignment, and obviously that entails referencing. Then Tuesday, 5 August, how and where to find credible information. And then the next one is how to make AI your best friend. So I know I've said that I'm going to cover some of these things. I actually specifically told you guys that I would show you how to use AI to help you find journal articles more easily. So I might actually be cramming the second and the third session into one. I might be covering something different. I don't know. But despite the fact that I'm going to be covering some of these things, I would strongly encourage you to also attend these sessions. They usually go to a lot of trouble to make sure that it's interesting for you, that it's relevant to you. And obviously this is an important part of your progression through your academic journey, is making sure that you are able to appropriately write articles, especially if this might not be on your radar at the moment, but you never know when it might pop up. I don't know, maybe it is already on your radar. If you start looking at postgrad work, you definitely need to be able to reference. That becomes even more important then. Okay. So in the meantime, you have a responsible AI use document. So as I said, I haven't got anything against AI use as long as it's done in a responsible manner. That's my only criteria. I use it all the time in terms of finding sources. If I'm looking for a research gap, I use that to see that I'm not missing something somewhere in the articles and the books that I've read. So it's a very useful tool for us. But like I said, as long as you understand at the end of the day, as my one as the person responsible for our academic development always says to us, as long as the student voice is heard, you can use the AI, but we still want to see you in your assignments, your answers, your thinking, because that is at the end of the day what we're giving marks for. At the end of the day, that is how you develop, how you learn, how you grow. Okay. Any questions so far? All right. So in terms of I put up videos in terms of showing you how these things work in the past, and I'll do that again. Mendeley Desktop or Zotero, that's another referencing tool. Super, super, super helpful tools that essentially allow you to reference in a jiffy. I like to work smarter, not harder. And with Mendeley, you can literally drag a journal article into the interface, and it will immediately pick up who the author is, what the year of the publication is, if it's a journal article, what the journal is, the volume, the edition, title, everything. And then you can just open it up as a plugin. You install it as a plugin for Word, the citing tool, so citing part of Mendeley. You can then go ahead and you can choose your article and just insert it. And then if you click, you literally click insert bibliography, and it'll insert your reference list for you. So referencing where you would normally be typing everything, and you now have to sit like, okay, where A, B, C, D, E, where are we? Mendeley does that for you. And what I like about it, aside from the fact that it is super fast, is also I know that every single in-text reference I have is in my final list of sources, and I know my final list of sources is alphabetical, And the third thing is I know that my referencing is consistent. So the things that I could potentially be forced to deduct marks for, I've got no reason whatsoever to deduct marks because all the boxes are ticked. I'll upload that video again. I'll make sure when I see you guys again, I've got my own laptop plugged in. This machine that I'm working on at the moment I haven't got admin rights on it, so it doesn't want to run Mendeley, much to my frustration. But I will show you how that works. Then some nice research tools, Elicit and Consensus. Specifically, Elicit actually gives you a bit of a summary of articles and gives you a summary report. And that's a nice way for you to see, and this is now where the responsible AI use comes in. You're not using the Mendeley report that it generates, you're using it to see, is the structure similar to how I'm writing? Is the items, or are the items that I mention, are they also mentioned by Elicit? Or does Elicit mention something and I'm not mentioning that at all? And if so, should I be mentioning that, or is that a bit too much? Consensus also, and like I said, both of those allow you to, it shows you basically the journal articles. So you can very quickly source journal articles using those two tools, as with Research Rabbit. Okay. The Heuristica, it's essentially a little brainstorming tool you can use. You can ask it to create a little diagram. You can ask it to give you definitions. You can ask it to explain it to you at various levels. So if a concept is extremely technical, you can actually ask it to explain it to you like you are 5 years old. You can ask it to explain it to you like a university student. You can ask it to explain it to you like a 10-year-old. So, or person that isn't technically inclined. So Heuristica for me is always a super valuable tool if I'm dealing with technical topics that I'm not necessarily versed on. I can very quickly see what certain terms mean. The other nice thing about Heuristica is I can ask it questions, so I can ask it to tell me why a specific topic or a specific concept is important. So you can, for instance, put in organizational behavior and ask it what it is. You can ask it why it's important. Certain leadership styles, you can ask it again what it is, why it's important, and you can ask it the benefits and the negative aspects of a specific type of leadership. A lot of things you can ask. So in terms of facilitating you acting almost, I want to say, as tutors and as mentors, these tools are very, very handy. Like I said, some of these I'll actually I'll do a video and show you. Mendeley, I've got a video where they show you how to use it to reference. Okay, so that's some help. And if there's anything else you guys need help with, please, please, please ask. And then I will do whatever I can to help you. So things to come. Obviously, the discussion forums I will put up with regard to the assignments and just general discussion forums. If you've got questions, if you want to ask anything, questions on the various learning units, additional sources are also things that I'll put up for you. Then your ICE tasks, very importantly. And like you did in the first semester, I'm going to, by the way, I'm going to make those ICE tasks very short. I know you've got a lot of other work to do. You're working, you're tired. So I'm going to just make it multiple choice. So or true, false, so that you can immediately get feedback on your answers. And you can sort of see if you're on the right track. And obviously that's also the nice little carrot there. It's going to contribute 10% to your final mark. So ICE tasks, very, 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 very important with regards to that. And then lastly, the YouTube channel, where I'll put in a bunch of additional videos on top of the recordings. If there's specific concepts, as I mentioned before, that you send me an email, I'm not sure what this means, or I don't fully understand this, or I need some more help with this, you can email me, put it in a discussion forum, then I can put some additional videos onto the YouTube channel for you as well. Right. And then also kind of tied to what I just said, it's very difficult in an online space in the sense that, and I mean, I understand why people like the anonymity of it. I mean, I laughed during COVID because I knew for a fact, especially when things were just starting to open up again and they were reopening McDonald's. I knew for a fact 90% of my IT class were not actually in class. They were at McDonald's in the queue. They were logged in, but they weren't physically in front of their computers. They were at McDonald's. So they created the illusion that they're there. So I can't see your faces. I don't know if you are actually sitting in front of your computer or not, or what's happening. So it's a bit hard for me to sort of gauge, do you understand or do you not understand? So I can't see your facial expressions. I can't see your reactions. So I need your help to be able to help you. I need your feedback. I need you guys to say to me, oh, we don't understand this. If you want certain additional material, ask for it. Content you're uncertain about or don't know. If you've got assignment questions, your industry experience. I didn't mention this, but I mean, I've spent the majority of my time working in some form of training and development. Did some work with CETAs, worked at in the university space quite a bit. I had a gig teaching for a little while. Did some training for you all bring something to the table that I can't bring to the table because I haven't got that experience. So let us learn from each other. Let's share experiences, and that's something that you guys did very well last semester, and that I really did appreciate very, very much, because it really strengthened what everybody took from the sessions, and I learned a lot. It was fantastic for me as well, being able to learn some things and get some additional feedback from other areas. All right. So your assessment breakdown, you can see there I task 4 of minimum of 4. I will give you more than 4, but 4 at the end of the end of the day is what I will be awarding marks for. Then you've got 2 assignments, assignment 1 and assignment 2. You can see assignment 1, 25%, assignment 2, 30% to your final mark, and then your exam, which is a closed book, written, unseen exam, 35%. So I will make sure from my side that we do some exam preparation. I will put up additional videos. Hopefully we will be able to, in one of these contact sessions, have some discussions. I will have a discussion board just for this purpose as well. And we still need to talk. Apparently there's something called DAGA, which I'm not familiar with. I've just kind of heard some of my colleagues mention it. Which I'm assuming is what you guys will need to use for the writing, but we'll discuss that closer to the time. And yeah, just we'll make sure that you are sufficiently prepared for all of that, and at the end of the day don't have any issues with regards to obtaining top marks for this module. Let's hope. And your PASS document that has been released. Now we haven't got the dates for the exams yet, but you can see there, and ICE tasks, obviously that will be towards the end of the semester that the ICE tasks are all due. I will send out notification as soon as I've got final confirmation. Assignment 1 due date is just before midnight on the 29th of August, so just over a month from now. And then your second assignment, 17 September, again just before midnight. So please make sure you've diarized these dates. Those are the 2 dates you need to bear in mind for your assignments, and when we expect them to be done. And well, at the end of this week, if you're sticking to the schedule, you will be finishing learning unit 2, meaning you should actually be able to start your assignment 1. Okay. So before we get into the actual lecture, and I see I erred there, I didn't actually have an introductory slide to the thing. Any questions from your side? Comments, concerns? Everybody good? Looks like it. If not, give a shout. All right. So working environments generally, doesn't matter what country you're in, doesn't matter where or what you're doing, field, industry, they are volatile, which means things can change. Sometimes um, with a little bit of I don't want to say violence. That sounds extremely dramatic. But we also know we live in a environment where there is a lot of conflict quite often, especially with regards to workers going on strike. Work environments are uncertain. I don't know if you guys have been keeping track of news headlines. Are you aware of what's happening at Goodyear and at Aspen? I'm not talking from my own backyard here, so I'm not too sure if I know the Goodyear story. I know definitely was national news, but I'm not too sure if you guys actually saw that. So Goodyear here in Kariga, which used to be Uitenhage. Did you see the headlines as with regards to what is going to happen there? Anybody? All right. So the Goodyear factory, which is like one of the I see somebody's typing here. Let's wait in anticipation. Aspen, which is one of our big pharmaceutical companies down here, they are discussing potential layoffs, and they were first the number of 134 people was on the cards, and now it seems yesterday the headline came through it might be more than that. Actually see if that's in the Q&A. So I'm kind of bouncing between the Q&A and the chat here just to make sure I'm not missing anything. So Goodyear is obviously a big tire manufacturer based in Kariga, which was formerly Uitenhage here, and they are close to Volkswagen. So Goodyear actually used to, between them and Continental, they used to supply tires for the VW cars that are manufactured here, because obviously we manufacture the Polo here. Goodyear is seemingly closing down. So that's not even slightly funny. Not here where we live. Unemployment is already extremely high. The Kariga area is a poorer area. And the motor industry is supplying a lot of jobs to a lot of families. So it's a very sad time at the moment. The unions are not remotely happy. And that kind of ties in with the volatility and the uncertainty aspect of work we would kind of think that a company that is supplying vehicle manufacturers with something like tires, that they would be okay. Clearly they're not. The working environment is complex because of various legislation. It's complex because of processes. It's complex in the South African context. And now we go back to first semester, where we said we are working with a very, very interesting situation in terms of our unions. Our unions are extremely active. Sometimes you look at other countries and there's not really a lot of union action happening, but in our country there is a lot of union action happening, and that obviously means that the management in South Africa need to be able to deal with those unions. And we also know that they very frequently, if they're not happy with something, they resort to strike action, or they use the threat of strike action as a coercion tool. We saw that very clearly with the FIFA World Cup, where our strike rates went through the roof because they knew whatever demand they are making, it's likely that somebody's going to cave, because nobody wants to be the one raising their hand and telling the entire country, oh, by the way, we lost the World Cup, because the Soccer World Cup, because the workers went on strike and the stadiums were not finished, or the public transport infrastructure wasn't finished or upgraded sufficiently, or whatever. So that's something that we saw a lot of, and we still see that to a large extent, that you have to negotiate that. And then lastly, the ambiguity, things not open to interpretation. And again, here legislation comes into play, union demands, management directives, all those things. It makes it interesting, but it also makes it challenging to manage these environments. And you kind of need to understand why certain things are taking place, which is where this module kind of fits in. We're looking at the psychology of things. So when we are looking at organizations, we're looking at how these organizations are designed. We're looking at the leadership in those organizations. We're looking at management, the teams, the individuals, and how all of these interact. And that's essentially organizational behavior. How the organization is structured, the leadership, management, teams, and individuals within that organization, how they function within that structure or design. And obviously individuals make up teams. Management must manage individuals and teams. And that is done through specific styles of leadership. And sometimes you approach it with one leadership style and then realize, but that leadership style does not work for this group of people or for the way that this team functions. And you then need to adjust. And that's part of the, if I can go back to the previous slide, that's part of the volatility, that's part of the uncertainty, that's part of the complexity, that's part of the ambiguity. You can manage two teams, and you will need to potentially manage them differently. Your approach to one team will not be effective with the other team, and you will need to go back to the drawing board and start, in some cases, getting very creative in order to manage them. So how do organizations successfully manage their workforce? What is a successful organization? How is an organization successful? There's a purpose in how they manage the organization. It's not just random, let's see what happens here. You know the people in the organization, you know what makes them tick, and you plan a strategy based on that. So there's strategy, there's structure, you create a culture within that organization where people are actually performing. And because of all of those things together, there is performance because it's being facilitated. And very importantly, all of the above, having a clear purpose and managing with purpose, having a clear, just having a clear strategy, doable strategy, feasible strategy, having proper structure, creating a culture within the organization. And there are different types of cultures you can create, work ethic, communication, and so forth, honesty. All of that will, at the end of the day, determine how well the company is performing. And all of that should be done with clear consideration of where the organization sees itself, what the organizational vision is. And that frequently is one of sustainability, survival, essentially. Any comments from your side on this? So what I would like you guys to do is now, when you are going back to your organizations tomorrow and so forth, have a look at how your team, your division is being managed, and think about whether or not that actually aligns. I mean, everybody should hopefully be aware of the organizational vision and mission. How is the way in which you are being managed, or maybe you're the manager. How is the way that you are managing your people, your teams, your individuals, or the individuals within a team even? How is that contributing to the organization reaching its mission, reaching its vision? Now, in organizations, we have a group of people, a collection of people who are basically forced to work together because you work for the same organization. And the idea here is that everybody works together to achieve either personal or group, collective, team goals, or all of the above. That's the point of an organization. And behavior obviously is how you conduct yourself within that realm. How do you work together? How do you what do you do to achieve the goals of the group? How do you work to achieve, and what do you do to achieve your own goals within the organization? How do you go about your business? How do you conduct yourself to make sure that your colleagues are able to achieve their goals? Quick question. And now I'm kind of hoping that you all have got a bit of rugby knowledge. But there's a slogan that's been used quite a bit by the rugby fraternity. Two words. The first one starts with an S and the second one starts with a T. Can anybody tell me what that is? there's a bit of a clue for you. First letter is an S, or the first word, and the second word starts with a T, and it's related to rugby. They like that, to throw that around. Do I need to give you another hint? Okay, so that's a yes. Okay. There we go. Stronger together. There we go. That's it. Yeah, stronger together. And in organizations, what we need to understand is that you are basically only as good as your weakest link. There's a lot of some guys are these American guys that they will straight up say to you, fire the guy. Now we know in South Africa that doesn't exactly work like that. We have labor laws. In America, you basically can't get away with that. Here you can't just fire somebody that's going to land you at the CCMA if you do. But part of what we're going to touch on is the culture in organizations, and I'm kind of starting to already move towards the second chapter, the organizational culture chapter. A team literally is as good as its strongest, as its weakest link. And that's why you need to be very, very careful. If you've got one rotten apple in your organization or in your team, and like I said, Gary Vaynerchuk is very, very vocal about this. Like, fire that person. Even Simon Sinek has said that on a number of occasions, although not quite as strongly. But you've got a problem if you've got one toxic person in your organization, because the assumption is, but oh, everybody else will sort that person out. And the research has repeatedly shown that that is not the case. That one person that is toxic, that one person that's always negative, that person is going to actually, doesn't matter how positive everybody around that person is, eventually that person will start to corrupt the other people, and they're going to become negative and they're going to become toxic. So as a manager in an organization, it's not to say that conflict is bad, and that's one thing we're going to keep on repeating is conflict has, yes, you get negative conflict. The moment that it starts creating toxicity, the moment that it starts creating toxic people, the moment that it starts impacting on productivity and all of that, it is bad. But if conflict leads to change, especially positive change, so we are now rethinking how we do things so that we can improve our processes, improve our strategies, improve our policies, that's a good thing. I mean, one example I can give you, and I mean, I'm going to give you guys a chance to maybe think of a situation you were in or that you're aware of where a conflict situation actually led to some positivity. One of the things that we as academics at the moment are really grappling with is the AI issue. I mean, you'll see it in the newspapers all over now, so that's really opened up a discussion. And for us, it's a case of you've got different faculties that use AI for different reasons, and what works in one specific faculty will be a major problem in another faculty. So we are sitting down and having discussions and arguments, and I don't want to say negotiations because it's not really a particular negotiation. It's a very vocal disagreements and weighing up pros and cons and trying to find middle ground and come to some sort of concession with regards to certain things. It gets quite passionate at times, but that's sort of, we realize that sometimes as annoyed as I get by a couple of the statements that somebody else would make, or as annoyed as they get with me about some of my statements, we all realize we need to have this conversation, because if we want to come up with a feasible, workable, adequate strategy to harness AI use, that is how we are going to have to do it. And hopefully not kill each other in the process. Any examples from your side with regards to how conflict has been harnessed to create something positive that you're aware of? Okay, I'll put that on the discussion forum, and then, like I said, you can sort of pay attention now and see if you notice anything like that in your organizations, your world of work, or you hear one of your friends or family members maybe mention something. But like I said, that's part of also the complexity in organizations, the volatility, the uncertainty, and it's needed. Okay. Um, what goals do you think individuals would have in organizations? What goals do you have? That might be a bit of a personal question, but I mean, you know, what goals do people have in organizations? And think now of things people have said, comments that they've made. Yeah, get promotion, getting a better position than your current one. Usually with a promotion or better position, there's a bit of a pay increase. And that's a good one. Thank you for that, Katlego. It's one most people strive at. And now if we link that to the team, are you not now competing potentially with some of your team members for that promotion? And that might cause a little bit of conflict and a little bit of volatility. Any other suggestions for personal goals, individual goals, or group goals that a team might have? Growing in the company, rather than remaining the same year after year. So we spoke about job enlargement and job enrichment. So learning, or I mean, if I look at our organization, there are certain people that, yeah, it's part of their job, but they have certain areas that they focus on, and they really go the extra mile to learn more about that area. And now the other staff members, if I've got any questions, or any of the other guys have questions, we go to that person, we ask them, and they now almost start mentoring us in terms of that. And that person will always be the guru. That person will always be the um, how can I put it now? The chief with regards to that topic, the go-to person. But seeing and also, you know, that get that buzz that they get by knowing people come and ask me questions, and that kind of almost drives them more to learn more, so they can give even better advice and better mentorship, and challenging themselves that they don't get that one of us doesn't ask them a question that they don't know how to answer. And sometimes also seeing that enjoyment when we do ask them a question that they haven't encountered before and they're not entirely sure how to answer. That whole, oh, now I need to go and find out what that is. I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to get back to you. You want that in an organization. Why as an individual is that important? How many years do you spend working? That's not actually a question that I'm posing on the floor. It's not a rhetorical question. How many years do you normally spend working? Pull out the calculators. 8 hours a day, and how many years? Now, if we start multiplying that by the number of days, and that then gets a dreadful little number there, Sydney. Yeah, you were at your one company for 6 years, yeah. So I had a sort of a starting there. But let's say you start working when you're 21, and you retire at age 65. That's 44 years. And like I said, now, yeah, yeah, 50 years. I mean, because these days we've all said, you kind of need to retire a bit later. If you start working earlier, that's going to be longer. But 50 years roundabout, that's a long time. If you ever make it to 100, that's half your life. That's a scary thought. So it's a lot of time that you're spending at work. And if you're doing the same freaking thing over and over and over again, can you, yes, slaving away. That's what it becomes. And I mean, let's make no mistake. You are going to have days where you really do not like your job, or there's certain things about your job you really do not like. But there are other aspects, hopefully, that you do enjoy. And if you're just doing the same thing over and over again and there's no growth, I mean, that doesn't sound very appealing, does it? You do actually, we all want a little bit of change. We all want a little bit of challenge. We want the opportunity to grow, to be promoted, to potentially move from one job to a next. Different company maybe, or different job within that company, different area, um, different city, still working for the same company, different country, still working for the same company, depending on what your goals are. So that it doesn't feel like you're slaving away. And like I said again, let's be brutally honest here. There are going to be days where you feel like you're slaving away. That's it. That's normal. But there should be some, hopefully, enjoyment in your work. And that's what managers and leaders should try and help accomplish. And if you haven't got goals, things that you look forward to, things that you work towards, what's the point? Now, as a group, what kind of goals do you think you'd be working towards? Bit of a slightly tougher question. So if we talk about groups, let's say like a specific department in an organization, accounting or finance department, marketing department, research and development department. What can anybody maybe think of an example of a goal that they would be working towards as a team? Creating apps, that's a very good example. So IT departments, if they're busy developing apps, they work as a team, and they need to create an app that is usable and user-friendly and doesn't crash and doesn't frustrate the users. That's definitely a goal. Very good example. At the moment, myself and another lecturer, we're working on a research paper. We're hoping to get the paper accepted. That's our goal. As a department, and just as an organization as a whole, making more profit than the previous financial year, absolutely. If you didn't have a clean audit before, having a clean audit. Municipalities, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Fixing a certain number of items, having less meetings. These are all goals that teams and organizations can have and should have. And again, that's something that motivates and something that drives you. And importantly, making sure these goals are feasible and realistic. So organizations, you've got groups or teams in organizations. You've got organizational structure and technologies that needs to be considered, and the environment of your organization needs to be considered. So if you're managing them, you need to understand these things and be aware of these things. Who do you have in your organization? What is the structure of your organization? What technology do you have available in the organization? What is the environment that you are functioning in? And you need to cater for that. And you need to lead based on that. And you need to set goals based on that. As leaders, as managers. And also create opportunities, create support within that for the people in your team. So company culture is something that we're going to discuss a bit more, and I'll put some videos up on this. And I've got two different examples of that here in these slides, but you can see there's a lot of things that people see about the organization on the outside, but things that a lot more things they don't see. So your culture is basically those invisible elements. People see the people that are there themselves, the benefits you get at the company, where it's located, what the office environment looks like, what facilities do you have, i.e. do you have a sick bay, do you have a cafeteria or two, maybe break rooms, what is the dress code. But then there's the other elements, and if the invisible elements are problematic, it's going to negatively affect the people in your organization. Now, I see that my time is up, so I'm going to stop at that. I'm going to put up a couple of additional videos that we can that you can have a look at, and we can discuss in future sessions. But any questions from your side? Any comments? I'll obviously get your YouTube channel up. I'll make sure that this video is uploaded to YouTube. I did run out of time a little bit. I will add the additional videos for the sections and little parts that I didn't fully cover in the session. I will put up. From my side, if you've got any questions or any sections you're unsure about, give a shout. And thank you for your feedback and thank you for your presence. It's much appreciated. I hope it's warmer where you are than it is where I am. But then I will see you guys again in 2 weeks' time. Have a fabulous week. Do not forget about the session on referencing tomorrow evening at 7. And I look forward to our semester together. Thank you so very much. And yeah, we'll see each other again soon.